Good
Hi.
evening. Hello, everybody. I'm Katrina, and you probably are wondering why I'm always here. Every single parent workshop, it's my face and my voice, and I'm just going to tell you why. It's because I'm a homeschooling mom, and I'm also a sponsor teacher. And when I started working for Family Partnership, I really wanted to start sharing all of the resources we as teachers have, because a lot of those resources are ones I need as a homeschooling mom. So I'm sitting here as a homeschooling mom, and I'm introducing you to my friend Laurie. Laurie has so many accolades I could tell you about, but I'm just going to tell you why I love her. She has been an Anchorage School District language arts teacher, but she has been my kids' writing teacher. My two oldest who homeschooled, she taught them how to write. And at the end, at graduation, when my son graduated, I said, "What was your favorite class?" And he said to me, "Laurie Matthews, she's the best teacher." So I am so excited to introduce you to her. She's going to help us with our reluctant writers. And here you go, Laurie, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Katrina. Okay, so right off the bat, I wanted to let you all know that there's a link to a Google Doc in the chat. Does everybody know how to open up the chat? If not, it's at the bottom of the screen. You just click on the chat bubble, and then it will pop open. And then if you click on the link, the Google Doc will open. If you wanted to print that off, I created it so that it could be a form for you to take notes if you would like to. So if you wanted to print that off, that might be helpful for you. Or you could just keep it open. I'm going to start by reviewing what is on that. Does anybody want me to just take 30 seconds, a minute for you to print it? Because I don't mind.
I can see the chat, but I don't see it.
I'll try it one more time. Let's see what happens. Maybe it's because we started the record. Do you see it now?
I see it now, thank you.
Oh, awesome. I'll bet it's because I posted it before the record. Okay, I'll just wait a minute until you guys let me know that you're back. Go ahead and print that off. If you are watching this recorded, so right now this is live. If you're watching it recorded, just know that you have access to this because you received an email with the link to the YouTube channel for Family Partnership. That email has the PDF attached, or it will have the PDF attached, so you'll be able to print this off as well. I'm going to be sharing a lot with you, and I just want you to be able to take notes. The other thing I wanted to say, Katrina, would you be willing, as I'm talking, as people join, would you be willing to just write a chat to let them know if they wanted to print that link off? Okay, awesome. Okay, I hope I don't say okay 50 times. So I have a lot to share. I do not want to overwhelm anybody. I have so many ideas. I love teaching writing. I love teaching, and I love developing confident writers from children who never wanted to write before. I just love it. I've been very successful at it, and I'm going to share with you not only some of the techniques that I use, but also an awesome website that you're going to be able to access free resources. Because of COVID, this is one major benefit of COVID, some phenomenal free resources. So I'm going to take you there. There are 3 things that we're going to cover today. First of all, I would like to focus on talking about shifting your perspective when you're working with your child with writing, when you're trying to get them to write and when you're trying to get them to revise, reframing your reactions. Then I want to take us through the writing process, and that's when I'm going to take us into this website, which is now offering free materials. And I'm going to show you many different pages on there that you'll find very, very helpful. As I take you to each page, just go ahead and jot down like the title of the page so that you can go back and find it. This website is phenomenal. It's going to be very easy to get lost in there for you. And then lastly, I'm going to show you some examples that my son, and also Katrina was able to find some writing examples. I'm going to show you if we want to take our child's writing to the final draft stage, but we don't want everything to just be this printed off, paragraph on a piece of paper or essay on a piece of paper. We want to get more creative. Like, creativity is who I am, so I'm always looking for fun, different ways to help my child present what he's done. And it also gets him excited because he wants to see what's coming up with his final draft. I'm going to show you some examples of things that I've done. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to tell you before we start is that my goal in this, and I'm probably not going to meet my goal, but my goal, so that I don't overwhelm you, is to try to take about 10 minutes per topic. So that's me talking for about 30 minutes. And then I would like to open it up so that you can ask me questions. If you want me to go further on anything, if I didn't cover anything and you're like, but what about this? Trust me, I'll be able to probably, if I don't have the answer, find a resource for you very quickly that will help you. So the other thing is that if you don't have any questions, we get to the end and I've only talked for a short period of time and you want me to keep going, I always have lots of things to say. So I'll just come up with more things to tell you about. And that's awesome because it's hard to limit myself. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, I would like to tell you that this is the parent training Zoom sessions that Katrina has put together to train family partnership families, to train the parents with a gamut of different resources. So if you haven't accessed all of the other training videos, you probably should, because she's put some wonderful resources together. In addition to what Katrina has done and is continuing to do for the rest of the year, I will also be putting together additional videos that are not live Zoom calls, but they're actual videos that I produce that Katrina will be presenting also as I produce them, specifically covering different units of writing and different ideas. So it would be like one idea at a time. And I will try to keep the videos to about 30 minutes if I can, with really great resources. This is the curriculum I'll be using for those. This is not the curriculum I'll be using today, okay? I'll be talking about a different curriculum today. I've got two that are my faves, okay? This is the one that I'm going to be doing separate with the videos, and that's because this particular one, this is geared towards teachers in a school setting. The teachers have to attend the training that this company puts on, and many Anchorage School District teachers have, in fact. I did. I love it. It's phenomenal. Everything in here is wonderful. However, it requires all of their paperwork, all their little awesome things that go with the lesson. And I reached out and requested permission to share this with homeschooling parents. So I'm going to be, and I received permission from the vice president of this company. So I'm very excited about that. So that's next coming up for writing. So today is just an overview, but I'm going to get into the meat in the future, coming up very soon, very, very soon, probably next week, I hope. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. Then I would like to show you very quickly my other favorite is, and I'm going to show you a little bit more, is the Right Source. Okay, so the Right Source was originally written, this is the 6th grade. They have one for every grade, starting from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. This is like a textbook with many resources in it. If you ever come across a Right Source, and by the way, the color is based on the grade. So this is 6th grade, the 9th grade one is blue, the 8th grade one is pink. Okay, I'll show you this in a minute, but if you ever come across one of these at a used bookstore, a garage sale, the Family Partnership Library, grab it. These are gold, okay, they're gold. I don't have permission to give you the paperwork, anything that goes with this. I have asked, but I don't have it yet. Okay, I'll ask again. All right, because it's wonderful. So here's the beautiful thing though. The people that created the Right Source, they used to be a company called Great Source. They are just a group of, I don't even know if they were teachers, researchers, I don't know, but phenomenal writing instructors. And they created this curriculum. It's so wonderful. Houghton Mifflin, which I'm sure you guys have heard of, it's a very large publishing company, actually bought the rights to all of the Right Source and some of the other materials as well. But they did not buy the rights to all of the other wonderful things that these people created, which is the website that I'm going to take you to in a little while. And they're the ones giving us free access. So we don't get free access to this, but much of it's very much the same, because it's the same people who wrote it all. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so now I'm going to start. That was a little bit of background, and now we'll go ahead and start, and I'm going to start to try to time myself here. I would like to begin with, if you take only one thing away from this training, what I'd like you to take away is to praise, praise, praise your child's writing. Praise it. Find something positive that you can say. Find a lot of positive things you can say. That's really hard for us as parents, because our child writes something and what do we look at? The handwriting and the misspellings, the missing capital letters, the missing periods. These are the things that we notice, but we can't. We have to stop doing that. And I tell you this as a former middle school language arts teacher who every year I had whole new crew of over 100 kids come into my classroom. On any given day, I saw over 100 faces, okay? And I did a lot of writing with these kids, starting from day one. I mean, we wrote all the time. This is what I discovered immediately, that these kids are stunted in their writing. And I also have discovered it with homeschooling students that I work with, same stunting. And I know what it is now. It is because whoever has been looking at their writing from the time they started putting their pencil on paper, and this is not a fault, okay? Because we have to teach our children good handwriting skills, don't we? So that starts early. We have to teach them about the capitals. We have to teach them about the periods, and we have to identify when they're not done correctly. So where's the balance? And finding the balance is very, very tricky. So if we don't find the balance, and if we've only focused on this before, we have to stop ourselves now, because here's what happens by the time we want to be able to say, here's your writing topic, go sit down and write, bring me something good. Well, that doesn't happen so much anymore, right? Because the kids are so tired of seeing the red pen and the marks all over their paper. And so they shut down. They stop trying. And you know what else they do? They stop using their awesome words. Have you ever noticed, possibly with your child, that your child has an amazing vocabulary when they're talking to you, but you do not see that same, you don't see that's your child's voice, right? Part of their voice is their vocabulary, their creativity. You don't see it in their writing. If you do see it in their writing, that's awesome. And you should be very excited about that. Because if you do see that in your child's writing, then your child hasn't been stunted in this area. If you don't see it, then this is something we want to focus on opening back up. The good news is you can do it, and it happens very, very quickly, okay? So if it's happened, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to fix it. Oh, so much. Okay, so here's how we do it. We praise, praise, praise. So at the top, back to my takeaway. There's no way I'm keeping this within 30 minutes. I'm sorry. Sorry, Katrina. I'm gonna try, you guys, not to get you to be bored. What I would like to recommend you do is ask your child, if not every day, to write for, say, 5 minutes. Give them a prompt, and I'll show you a great list of prompts. Try to get your child writing in like a spiral bound book, or on lined paper, whatever paper is best for them. There are so many different kinds out there. And 3-hole punch it and keep it in a binder with the newest one on top every day, the newest one on top. Have it be their writing binder or their writing portfolio. If you can't have them write every day, try to have them write 3 times a week. Schedule it in. Actually, on your calendar, however you have your child's week organized, pick the 2 or 3 days where you have some extra time, and there always seems to be a little extra leeway, or they always seem to be done earlier. And you're like, you shouldn't be done this fast, okay? Go ahead and schedule it in. If they finish early and you say, oh, good, you're done early, now go write this, they are not going to write for you because they're going to be mad. That's like punishment for finishing early. So that's why you have to schedule it. Trust me on this one. I've been down that road many times. Okay, but if it's written down, it's happening in our house anyway. Okay, so you're not going to revise everything. You're not going to focus on everything. You're going to look at their writing, every piece of writing that they do. You're going to find something to love about it. You're going to not use red. Stop with the red. If you used red, just don't do it. Use red for other things. Never use red for correcting your child's work again. I have a cup. Let me show you this cup. This cup, these are my favorite pens, actually. They're beautiful. They're the Paper Mate felt tip. I love these. They're very expensive. They're worth every penny. I learned about these when I was teaching middle school, and I fell in love with them. And I say, you know what? I don't care how much they cost. I'm buying myself a new pack twice a year because they're that awesome. Because they flow nicely, very smoothly. They leave a beautifully, like, not too thick, not too thin mark for the child, which just kind of feels good. And there's so many different colors that you can choose from. So color is great. Get yourself a cup of these so that they're right in front of you. Okay, so what you're doing, every time your child finishes something, you want them to bring it to you. They don't have to sit there while you read it, okay? You're going to just, when you have a couple of minutes, you're going to sit down with a pen in hand, and you're going to put hearts, and you're going to squiggle, underline things, and you're going to put positive comments, okay? That's what and then you're going to leave it. You're not going to ask them to add to it, nothing. One day a week, if you can. If not, at least the next week. So even if it's best intentions, but life gets in the way, make sure it happens the following week, okay? At least once a week. I want you to take one of those pieces of writing. Have your child pick the one that they're the most engaged in. And this is what you're going to sit. You're going to then type it up, and you're going to put it like at least 2.5 spaces in between, okay? Make it like 14 font. 14 font is really good for revision. You don't want to do single space, you don't want to do double space, 2.5 to 3. Why? Because you need to have space to write stuff. Then you're going to sit there with your child, and we're going to take you right back to the top of this paper. You're choosing one piece of writing each week to revise together. You're not editing it. You are not looking at spelling. You're not looking at where the periods should go or where the commas should go. Ignore that for now. That happens at the very end. I'll talk about that in a second. This needs to be a time that your child is excited about. So it's scheduled in. A tea party. If your child is a reluctant writer, you need to come up with something that's going to engage them, something that they're going to be excited about, and they're going to be looking forward to. I will tell you right now, and I hope he can't hear me on the other side, because I want to still be able to do this when he's having a tough day. But with my kid, if we're having a rough morning, and I even still did this last year, haven't had to do it this year yet though, I'll say, hey, do you want to have some tea together? Yeah. And I have a really beautiful tea set that a friend gave me years ago, like from China. And I'll actually put tea in the teapot, bring out the little cups, and I also always bring some whipped cream. And we sit there, and it shifts him immediately. And he is like, you know, he's a big kid, but he really likes doing that. It's so funny. And it's not like a little girl thing. It's like a special connection with mom, right? Plus the whipped cream isn't bad, right? We're always going to go for whipped cream. Another thing that you can do, so, but you, again, you want to make this special. So a tea party while you're revising, or snuggling on the couch with a lap desk, or clipboards where you each are holding a clipboard, or a heavy book or something, but you want something heavy underneath your papers. And then you each want to have a pencil in your hand, not a pen at this point, a pencil, okay? All right. So this is the takeaway. I'm going to repeat this again, but I'll repeat it faster about halfway through it, and then I will repeat it at the end, because if you take nothing else away from this, I want you to take away special time with your child to revise. Revising needs to be something that we look forward to, because otherwise revising is something that we hate. It's something that our child hates. They don't want to do it, then they don't want to write, right? It's like this evil cycle. Okay, your child's writing is a window into their soul. Do you agree? Don't you absolutely love when you get something that your child has written? It just makes your heart melt, right? I went on this major trip down memory lane today as I was pulling out some examples to share with you guys. And then I had Katrina go on a trip down memory lane too for something that her son wrote for me. And even as she was like showing me flipping through the pages, I was like, oh, I remember that. Oh my gosh, my heart. He's not even my kid, but my heart, right? Because not just my own child, but every student I've ever worked with over the years, whether it was, you know, in the public school classroom and I had 50 million papers to look at, or whether I was sitting one-on-one with a child, their writing is beautiful. And there's always something that can be found. And they always give you a little bit of an opportunity to get to know them. And if you jump on that, if you capture that, they're going to give you more the next time. I promise. Okay, so We're shifting our perspective. I think I've fully covered that. Part of that is softening our voice. We want to, if we lean towards a hard voice, our kids pick up on that. So this special time, soft voice, quiet voice, almost a whisper, but not quite, but definitely happy, positive mom voice. Your reactions have to be reframed. Again, we don't care right now about spelling. We don't care right now about all this other stuff, and I'm going to explain why. Now we get to why we don't care about that. We do care about it, okay? But not when we're trying to get the meat out, the meat of the paper. We care about it right before we're done, almost done. Right before we publish it, that's when we care about that. But we're not going to get to that stage if we focus on that at the beginning. Okay, and here's why. If you look at your paper, you see that there are 6 traits of writing. So we have ideas, organization, voice, word choice, sentence fluency, and conventions. Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly about what each one of these is. But first thing I'm going to say is that I'll bet you already know what conventions is, right? Conventions is where we cover correct spelling, correct grammar usage, periods and commas where they go, right? Capital letters. This is where we cover this. All right, if we're talking about ideas, what we want to think about is the clear message, the purpose that our writing has, the focus, a lot of, like, plenty of very specific ideas and details that develop those ideas. That's what we're talking about when we talk about ideas. Everything I'm saying, you'd be able to find very easily if you Google 6 traits of writing, if you're not already familiar with it. I also want to tell you that this entire book is revolved around the 6 traits of writing. Okay, so it's fully woven into this in a beautiful way. Unfortunately though, the website we're going to go to, I didn't see them reference the 6 traits of writing even one time. And I suspect that was part of the sale deal because it's so beautifully woven into this. It's gotta be that, it's gotta be, but it doesn't matter because it's still good stuff. It's just not, it's just, they don't reference the 6 traits of writing for some reason. Okay, organization, this is where we want to make sure that we have clear beginning, middle, and ending. And overall, the one detail leads to the next in a way that makes sense, okay? It's like, if we're retelling a situation, we retell it in order. If we're describing a room, we pick a way we're going to go. We're gonna walk in and we're gonna go to the left and look around. And the way that we nail organization is with transition words. So I'll be talking about that in a little bit as well. Voice, this is where our child's voice comes through. The language that they speak, those tricky words that they would never attempt to spell, but they're going to say them, you want your child to start using those. And this is why I do not care about spelling until we take something to a published, a final draft stage. Because if I do you think my child's going to use a word that he doesn't know how to spell? No, because he doesn't want to have to look it up in the dictionary. He's only going to put down words that he already knows how to spell. So then we have a limited range if we're 10 or 6 or even 14, right? Potentially. And we don't want that limited range. We want them to use these words that they do not know how to spell. And we want to praise that. Oh, I see what that word is. Or we have them read their writing to us and we have no idea what that word is. Like we kind of think, but they know it and they read it and we're like, yay, good for you for that word. I'm so proud of you. You used that word. That's awesome. Don't even say, and you didn't know how to spell it. Don't worry about that. Maybe write yourself a note that that's what that word is, but don't worry about the spelling part at that point. Heavily praise all attempts at words that they don't know how to spell, okay? And isn't this opposite? Doesn't this fly totally opposite of what we think we're supposed to do when we're teaching our child writing? It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy, but I'm telling you it works. I have proof. I have years and years of this working. So I know this is the best way to do this. Okay. I talked about voice. Well, voice then also moves into word choice because when we're talking about word choice, we want whatever it is that we're writing about, we want to use the language that goes with that. So if we're writing about building something, we want to use the words that go with it, like the names of the tools. If we're writing about going on a trip to Hawaii, well, then we want to use the language that we would attribute to that. So we would want to help our child think about, as we're thinking through each area of what we want to write about, what are some words that you wouldn't find or you wouldn't use or say in any other way except for this? Those are the words we want to use. Okay, so we want to try to get as specific as we can, because those words are going to help develop their thoughts much better and help them deliver that clear message. Okay, and now we move into the 5th of the 6 traits, and that is sentence fluency. So this is where we need to be teaching our children from an early age. And if you are not comfortable with this, don't worry, because I'll be doing a video about different types of sentences in a way that will help you lock into this, okay, I promise. So I'm just going to tell you really quick. We've got simple sentences, you know this. We have compound sentences, you know this. We have complex sentences. You may not feel confident with those yet. And we have compound complex sentences, okay? If we can start to teach at least simple and compound to our little ones, and as they start to get older, like 5th and 6th grade, we start to pull in complex. And then in middle school, we start to pull in compound complex, and we expect it in middle and high school then. If we've been intentionally teaching these different types of sentences, and we've been talking to our child about varying the order of these different types of sentences so that we don't go simple sentence, simple sentence, simple sentence, compound, right? We don't want to do that. We want to blend them up. If we get them doing this comfortably from an early age, this is going to be not only how they naturally express themselves in writing, but how they naturally start to speak too. So it's a beautiful thing. It carries over into their conversations. It's very fun to watch happen. All right, so now here's why I don't worry about the conventions, because revising is where the beautiful, it's where the magic happens. Revising is where the magic happens. And so if I have the 6 traits of writing, okay, and these 5 that I just discussed, this is what is going to get my kid excited about getting their ideas out there, like developing, and this is the one that's going to shut them down. No, I don't care about it until then. Because here's the other thing. If when we're going through and we're revising and I'm working with my child or someone else's child, and I'm helping them come up with different areas to develop, and then I have them go through and fix all the spellings and fix all of this at the same time, it's just extra work. They're not going to want to put any more work into revising it again. And I never ever want a child to stop at one revision, because why would we do that? If our child picked a piece that they're excited about and they want to revise that and have special time with us, why on earth would we only do one revision? That's silly. No, we milk this for as much as we can get out of it. Trust me, okay? This is what we do. When your kid is done with it, then you're done. At least to take it through 2 revisions. So here's what this looks like. They write their piece, right? They write several pieces. You give love to everything. They pick one that you're going to have special time with, a week or every other week. You sit down and it takes about 15, 20 minutes to work through you're going to identify some areas that you want to work on, maybe developing their sentences or pulling in new words, different things. I'll show you some little mini lessons for that in a minute. And then what you're going to do, you are going, depending on your child's age and their comfort level with the computer, either you are going to then go and put those changes in and print off a clean copy, not a final draft, typed, and I really insist this with all of my students. Just because you typed something does not mean anything to me. Having it typed means that you're not going to fight me on revising it. That's all. So typed is not finished. It's clean copy. So I call it clean copy. I'll actually at the top, after they handwrite something, and I'll type it up really quick and, you know, put like the extra spacing, and I'll write clean copy 1. I'll make a really big point of this. This is not your final draft just because it looks pretty and it's typed. Clean copy 1. Clean copy 1 is going to get all marked up. And we don't want them upset because we just marked up their beautiful finished draft. So if we keep this really, really clear, then we're not going to have a problem. And we also say, we're going to do this again. Look at all these great changes we made. Now, again, depending on your child's ability and their age, either you're going to say, okay, for tomorrow, in addition to the spelling and the grammar and the reading work you're doing for language arts, I want you to make another clean copy. Go into the document, put all these changes in, print off a clean copy. Okay, that's what you're going to say. If they're not at that age where they can do that, then you're going to do it for them and you're going to print it off. Then when you're able to sit down with them again, and it might be the next day and it might be the next week, don't worry about that. When you're able to sit down with them and have special time again, you're going to go through the revision process again. Shoot for 2 times, okay? And then you get to print off a final draft and praise it and just comment all over it. Now, I'm sorry, I should not have said final draft. That 3rd time is where you're going to go through and you're going to help your child fix the spelling errors. Put the commas where they need to go, talk about why they need to go there, and put the periods where they need to go. Talk about developing a complete thought. This is where that's going to happen, but it's going to be minor and you're not going to give it a whole lot of energy because you should already have a grammar component in place. If you don't already have a grammar component in place, you need to get one in place. These things are explicitly taught in the grammar component of your child's language arts curriculum. It should be, okay? If you need one, reach out to me and I'll recommend some good options for you. But if you don't have one, please get one in place right away. Your child should be doing grammar all the way through, and it should be getting progressively harder, repeated, progressively harder as they go. New concepts are taught each year. You don't do grammar through 5th grade or 6th grade and call it good. That would be a huge mistake and it would be unfair to your child. Okay, so the grammar is already being explicitly taught. I'm sure you also are doing explicit spelling lessons with your child. Spelling is being explicitly taught, right? So this is already being covered in addition to these special, loving revision lessons that you're going to be doing, okay? Because we're trying to shift. We're doing a shift here. So that's why we're not focusing on it until right before we publish it. Okay. I am ready. Whew. I'm doing actually not bad on time. I'm ready to show you guys this website. So I'm going to go to share screen real quick here. Okay, so this website, this is called Thoughtful Learning. And if you want to go ahead and underline that on the outline that I gave you, the Thoughtful Learning website. So if you notice this green banner at the top, all online units are free. And it says through June 30th, okay? And it'll say that you only get like a certain number of months, but they told me that you get it as long as you want. Now I want to, let's see here. Let's go to books. Nope, home. Well, this is not giving me the exact thing. Give me 1 second to find the page that I needed to show you guys. Maybe about us. No, my library. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I don't know why this is not showing me exactly what I wanted to show you. Whoops. Okay, I gotta take us back there. Give me a second here. Oh boy, technology, right? Well, the good news is once I get to it, it'll show us what I want to show you. So this is, I'm just gonna go ahead and put in the right source. And then it's gonna take us there. Okay, here we go. So the welcome. Okay, so this is, go ahead and type in, if you wanted to look at any of their original books that they did, jot down the right source, because if you Google that, this is still their website, but it takes us to show you this. So you know how I showed you the 6th grade right source just a minute ago? That's this right here. 5th grade right source, 4th grade right source. So see, it goes all the way up to grade 12 and it starts with 1st grade. They used to have a kindergarten one, so you might be able to find that. These are very expensive. If you click on one of these, you'll see that they normally charge like $86 for one. That's just ridiculous. You do not need to do that. You can simply go to Amazon and find it for like $30. Or you can check our library as soon as that opens up next week. And I know we have some on the shelf. I don't know which grades we have right now. Okay, and you can just take it and use it. So all of these different books were created by the same people. That's what I want to show you. So what you want to do, you want to click on, as soon as you get to this website, click on this banner. And then this is going to take you to this page. You don't need to even worry about reading all of this. You want to select whichever writing unit is appropriate for your child. So I'm going to just kind of, I actually have them all in my library, but you can also get all of them if you want to. So you can literally add all of these into your cart. Then you will check out, it'll go into a cart, you'll check out. When you're done checking out and it's free, you will click on My Library. So write that down to click on My Library. And in My Library, here are all the full units that I have checked out. Isn't this awesome? So I don't want to totally show you all of this yet, because what I want to show you first is up here at the top where it says mini lessons, okay? So I want to click on that. Okay, now, the first thing I want to talk about is, okay, if you look at your paper, you can see that for number 2, I wrote the writing process, and the writing process includes brainstorming, pre-writing, drafting, revision with the heart, because that's when we give it some love, editing, and publishing. We don't take everything to the publishing stage, and do you know what? We don't even have to take everything to the editing stage. Really, you should do several each semester, but you don't have to do everything. Trust me on that, okay? So let's talk about each of these in order, and I want to show you how this website can help you do each of these steps of the writing process in order. Okay, first of all, with the brainstorming. Brainstorming, I'll bet all of you are very comfortable with the idea of using a web. If I had everybody raise their hand or nod, they'd be like, yep, I got a web. We got webbing down, okay? Webs are wonderful. They're wonderful tools. I love webs, but they don't work for everything, right? So depending on what we're trying to write, we should, actually, do you know what? I need to take a pause. I need to deviate. You know how at the beginning I talked about having your child do a free write like several times a week? I am now shifting gears, and I'm now talking about a specific writing assignment that you give your child. So let's say you want to do research writing with your child right now. You're doing history and you're learning about the presidents, and you want to say, hey, you know what? Let's do some research about, you pick a president, and let's do some extra research and do a neat paper or project on the president. Or let's say you're in science and you're learning about Einstein, and your child is super engaged learning about Einstein. They're excited about that. Hey, let's stop what we're doing in language arts for just a little bit, and let's do a research paper on Einstein. Let's learn about Einstein. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you can stop what you're doing and you can pull writing in anywhere. Anything that your child is excited about, pull writing in. One time, not too long ago, we were doing a unit on civil rights, and going through my, going down all the piles of work I've saved from my son and my little trip down memory lane, I came across this piece of writing he did that I'd completely forgotten about. And one of the things that was alluded to in one of the videos that he watched was a green book. And if you were African American and you were trying to drive anywhere in the South, it could have been in other places too, but for sure in the South, there's a green book that would tell you where you could safely stop. And my son was he's appalled. He's like, why would they have to have a special book to tell them where they could safely stop, right? Because he was little and he didn't have a full grasp of what was happening during that time period in our country. And so I thought, oh, I'm capturing this right now. We just stopped what we were doing. I just put a halt to our social studies and our language arts units, both of them, and we just did a deep dive. We watched awesome videos that we found. I mean, you would not believe what's available online with videos right now that are totally appropriate for kids. And if they're excited about something, they've shown even the littlest bit of interest, they're going to stay engaged. So then as he was watching videos, I kept stopping them and we talk and we take little notes and turn the video back on and then stop and take little notes. And then when we were done learning about it, he was like totally ready to write a really awesome little paper about it. Something that was a blip passing by. Have you guys had this opportunity with your child yet this year, any of your children? And you can either choose to stop and really go deep. Like, that's the beauty of homeschooling, right? We do not have to get to the end of a textbook or the end of a curriculum by any certain point. If our child is interested in something, we stop and we go there with it. And we don't just have to go there with that curriculum. We can go there with writing too, if it's not a writing thing, which, trust me, they're never going to be excited about writing. They're just not. So you want to get the writing pulled into what they are excited about. Okay. So that whole conversation I was having, I'm so sorry, my little rabbit trails here. I am in the mini lessons section at the top. Now, I don't like their search bar at all. This is really cool the way this is organized. The search bar, it like groups everything into like textbooks, and it's very confusing. This has everything broken down and it's really easy to pick out. So if you just look at the pictures, you can say, oh, hey, there's a brainstorming chart. Okay, there's one. Let me back up here. Here's another one. That could be a brainstorming chart, right? So there's a lot of different ways. Oh, here's a Venn diagram. There's so many different ways that you can show your child how to brainstorm. They've got a bunch of them on here. So take some time to flip through and just to look at these, because the images will stick in your mind. And then that's when the creativity can happen. When a really cool idea comes up, you can stop and go, I remember there was like a graphic that would work really well to help us organize our thoughts. And then you can go here and find it. And anything you click on, you can print off. Here's my favorite one right here. I'll bet you guys are gonna love this. Look at this. Is this the coolest thing in the whole world? If you are going to have your child do a personal narrative, which are way awesome to do because this is when they get to start to learn about pulling dialogue in and sensory details, and they're writing about something that happened to them. They do love writing about themselves. This is a great way to get those ideas flowing. You could have them do a life map, and I would not have them do a life map on a little piece of paper. I'd pull out a big, huge poster board. And I'd say, okay, what do you want your life map shape to be? Should we make it a big heart? Should we make it a big loop-de-loop? Should we make it the shape of Mount McKinley? What should we do for your life map shape? And you draw that out, and then you tell them, you show them an example. Modeling with examples is beautiful. So you would show this example. You'd say, here's how this child did it. This is when this child was born in 2001. This is when they were, and they usually in a life map, they have a baby, right? Like they draw a mom holding a baby, and that's them. And then all the different things from their life that either they can remember or that people have told them stories about from their life, or that they have pictures of, right? Then these are the things that they would put on here that were important events in their life. A sibling being born, moving to a new house, going on a vacation, anything, making a new friend, you know, all sorts of different life events. And then once they do that, and that right there, you guys, this is writing. This is it. This is them thinking about themselves and their life, because the thought processes that are occurring as they're developing this are beautiful. You don't even have to take this any farther. But if you wanted to, you could then say, now let's pick one of these and let's write about it. You've got them hooked at that point, because they will want to write about that because it's about them. And that would be a personal narrative. Okay, and I'm going to back us up now, back to the mini lessons. So I've shown you several different ways to get the creative ideas going, the brainstorming. Then the next step of the writing process is the pre-writing. And this is where we talk about outlining and just kind of listing out what we want to talk about in order. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on that right now, okay? Now, because what I really want to show you and what I'm excited about with this particular website is that this is going to provide models for you. So right at the top, I want you, so notice next to mini lessons, so this is a big deal. Can you write mini lessons on your paper and put a star next to it? And then student models, same thing, and put a star. Yes, I'm a teacher. All right, so I'm going to click on student models. When we want our child to do a good piece of writing, we need to show them good writing. We do not want to say, I want you to write about this and not give them a sample unless they're just doing the free writing and we just give them a prompt. But if we're doing an actual official type of writing, like a research paper or a narrative paper or a story or comparison contrast writing, right? If we're doing something that's specific or even a letter, excuse me, we want to show them a model that's appropriate for their grade. Okay. If they are not functioning at grade level, if they are functioning above or below with their ability to express themselves in written form, then you need to pick the one that's probably closer to where they're at right now. You do not want to show them an example that's way above where they're at because they're going to shut down on you. But you do need to start to push them that way. But when we're first starting out, we pick one that's appropriate for right where they're at. So let's say let's say we're talking about a 5th grader, okay? And so all of these models for 5th grade writing, explanatory writing, persuasive writing, narrative writing, personal narrative. Let's look at that. Should we look at the jet bikes for personal narrative? Because we just looked at the life map. Okay, so let's say we have our child doing their life map and they pick something fun. And then now what do I do? Okay, well, we're going to do a brainstorm where we're going to write everything we remember about this. And then we're going to read an example of another student your age who also wrote a personal narrative about a fun idea that they had or a fun situation. So here's an example. You can print, I believe, yeah, these can be printed off. And I would, yeah, right up here at the top, you can print them. And I would absolutely do that. Anything that you're going to use as an example, you don't want to have your child looking at it on the screen. You want it in paper in front of them so that you can mark it up. And you and your child together can talk about the things you liked that this student did, or the things that you think they could have done differently. You want to point those things out. Also notice that right up here, they identified that this student used really great transition words. So you would, anything that they definitely point out, you would then also point out. And you would say, hey, let's like highlight all the transition words as we get through them. And let's talk about how that took us from this thought to this thought. Okay, now I'm going to show you, I'm going to go back to student models, and I'm going to show you something for like a 12th grader, okay? So a problem solution, persuasive writing, internet plagiarism. Okay, so see, the examples, they take them up to the appropriate age level and the level of writing. So what you're going to notice differently, you'll notice that there's all the different types of sentences are interwoven. You'll notice that there's a higher level of vocabulary used. You'll notice that there's not going to be repetition. They're going to be modeling all of the things that we want the students doing at that age. And again, you can find models, examples of whatever grade and for many, 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 many different types of writing. Modeling is very important. If you want more than this, you can also, I think you'll find them within the actual units that you pay for. They have additional models. I don't know if they're the same ones that are in this list or if they're additional. Okay, I didn't determine that yet. All right, so we've talked about that. Now we're to the drafting stage. If your child is young and they don't want to write, this is a real common problem with reluctant writers. Even I've had 5th and 6th graders come to me and they did not want to hold a pencil and they did not want to write. That's okay. You know what I would do when we get to this stage? Cool, you talk. I'm gonna type your words. And I would literally, if they stopped at a clear stop, I'd put a period. But other than that, I was typing their words. And that's how we would get the draft. And we would you start there, you start where they're at. If they are comfortable writing, but they're sitting there and they're going, I don't know what to say next. I don't know what to say, I don't know. Hey, guess what? Start the sentence for them. Just literally give them a sentence starter and then they'll finish it. And usually they'll finish it in a very creative way. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll finish it and then they'll say, you know what? I like what you wrote down. I like that, but I think I have a different idea for how to start it. Like now they have a better way to start it. And so then you honor that, you cross it off and you change, you're writing for them, right? So you start it, you write it, they speak the finish, you write the finish, or you type the finish. If they're willing to write, you write the start and they write the finish. You get them where they're at. Even if they're having a bad day, you jump in. Don't fight about it. If you fight about it, they're not going to write for you. They just won't. Okay. So it's totally appropriate to just, I mean, think of it like an accommodation. Some people like to use the speaking into the text, like there are different methods like that. I've never personally done that. My son tried it one year. He didn't love it. We tried it with Google Docs and he didn't love it. He's like, I would rather just type it myself. And I thought, well, you know, he had broken his arm. And I thought, well, here's a way for you to still write, you know, still get your ideas out. And he was like, this isn't for me. So anyway, but it is for some people. But if they don't like it, then try something different. Okay, so talking really fast, and I'm very sorry, I'll try to slow down. Once it is written and you've got the draft, we call it the first draft. Don't call it a rough draft. If you call it a rough draft, once it's typed, they're going to think that's the final draft, because if they've attended public school, that's what they're trained to think. Sorry, because they've got all the students in the classroom and they got to get their stuff printed out very quickly and moving on to the next thing. Okay, they don't have the luxury of being a homeschool parent and fitting this in when it works for their child. So you're looking at this differently. Just like you've discovered, homeschooling is not the same as having your child in the classroom. Everything is different. So you meet your kid where they're at. So then either you type or they type, depending on their age and their ability. You want to make it so that it's 14 font with 2.5 to 3 spaces in between, and you want to print off 2 copies. Okay. Now we are going to go into the mini lessons, because I want to show you how do we find some cool ideas to do the revising. I keep talking about revising and you're probably thinking, how do I even know what to tell them to do? I don't know, right? I don't know. I'm going to sit there and stare at it and go, looks good to me. Okay. Or I don't like it, but I don't want to shut my kid down. So here you go. This is so great. So I want to show you just a few of these pages on the mini lessons. The first one I want to take you to is elaborating sentences. So I'm just going to scroll down, and I love this one. This is so cool. Okay, so you can literally sit there with your child before you're looking at the paper together, and you can say, okay, we're going to do a mini lesson. A mini lesson is like a 5-10 minute lesson. And then we're going to talk about how to develop something. So we start with a very simple Bob giggled. Well, that's nice, but it doesn't tell us how he giggled. Oh, Bob giggled like a nervous hamster. Notice the color coding. The how is green, and then we add the how in there. And so if you're going to do this with your child, which they give you a bunch of sentence starters that are fun, get these colors in colored pencil, underline these things. Okay, so you want to do several of them. And then once you've gone through it and you've done some practice with elaborating sentences and making them awesome, then you go to your child's writing and you say, okay, I want you to pick out 2 sentences for us to elaborate. Only 2. Okay, so back to this. Bob giggled like a nervous hamster, that's how. But when did he giggle? When Sherry asked him to dance, Bob giggled like a nervous hamster. But why did he giggle? When Sherry asked him to dance, Bob giggled like a nervous hamster because he secretly liked her. You might think you can't do this even with a 3rd grader. You can. You absolutely can do this with a 3rd grader. You can even do this with a 2nd grader. They get this stuff. And especially if you use color and you insert things, and you just use little carrots. You can even use like a dry erase board and just keep adding things to it and have them do the writing. It's lots of fun. And I love how they give you a bunch of examples to then, and you can let your child pick a couple that they want to do. And you just go through it the same way. You say, okay, let's add a how. Now let's add a when. Now let's add a where. And so when you're done, you've got, your child has just taken 2 of their sentences and turn them into beautifully elaborate sentences. How easy, and it was fun, right? So that's one way to revise. There you go. There you got one tool now. Okay, we're going to go back to mini lessons, and I want to show you another one. And there are a bunch in here, okay? Elaborating ideas. So we just did elaborating sentences. Elaborating ideas using different levels of details. That's what I want us to look at. Okay, this one's really cool. Check this out. When you write paragraphs and essays, you can use different combinations of details to develop an idea. Each new level of detail adds further support for the main idea. Here's one effective way to combine different types of details. We've got level 1 is the main idea, level 2 would be an example, and level 3 would be an explanation of the example. So what I would do in this case, if I were using this, I would print this off and I would have 3 colors. I would underline main idea in one color, example in one color, explanation in one color. And then I would go down through this example with my child and we would color code. Well, where's the main idea in here? The main idea sentence. Where's the example sentence or sentences? Where's the explanation sentence? And talk about how something very simple can be developed by adding the examples and the explanations. We call these the E's. They'll be coming up in my other videos they'll be doing. Okay, the next one I want to show you, and I'm almost done with the mini lesson showing, using different, no, that's it. Those are the only ones I'm showing you. Okay. Yay, I'm done with section 2. Okay, last section, I'm gonna show you some cool ideas, okay? So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. The first thing we're gonna start out with, one cool way to get your child writing is to launch it with model, like you wanna use a story that they are engaged in, okay? And so you're gonna launch it with a fun story. Have any of you read The Day the Crayons Quit? Yeah? Okay. Have any of you done a piece of writing with your child after The Day the Crayons Quit? Oh, this is the best. Okay, I did this with my son when he was, I don't remember what age, but I couldn't believe what he wrote for me. It was awesome. I'm gonna read 2 of the letters of the crayons for you, okay? And then I'm gonna read you 2 of my son's letters, which I was dying. I remember just dying. I couldn't believe it. They were so creative. Okay, hey Duncan. Can you guys see this okay? Okay, hey Duncan, it's me, Red Crayon. We need to talk. You make me work harder than any of your other crayons. All year long, I wear myself out coloring fire engines, apples, strawberries, and everything else that's red. I even work on holidays. I have to color all the Santas at Christmas and all the hearts on Valentine's Day. I need a rest. Your overworked friend, Red Crayon. Okay? And then the next one, the Green Crayon. Dear Duncan, as Green Crayon, I am writing for 2 reasons. One is to say that I like my workloads of crocodiles, trees, dinosaurs, and frogs. I have no problems and wish to congratulate you on a very successful coloring things green career so far. The second reason I write is for my friends, Yellow Crayon and Orange Crayon, who are no longer speaking to each other. Both crayons feel they should be the color of the sun. Please settle this soon because they're driving the rest of us crazy. Your happy friend, Green Crayon. Okay, I think my son might have been in 3rd grade when he wrote this, maybe 4th, I don't know. I just died. Are you ready? I'll just read it to you. You won't be able to read his handwriting. That's why I think it was maybe 3rd grade. Dear Cole, this is your army guys. We are very, very bored, exclamation mark. You never play with us anymore. Remember the battle of the cowboys versus the Indians? And you set all of us up on the table and some of us were broken and you haven't fixed us yet. So we're really bored. Please fix us and play with us, please. Isn't that the cutest thing, right? So that's just, and I won't read the next example. He wrote one about his stuffed animals and being upset because the monster, his Labradoodle dog, keeps stealing them and tearing them on, taking them on adventures around the house. Because he does, he takes all the stuffed animals. So anyway, very creative. So kids can just make you want to cry with their creativity. So that's one example I wanted to show you. I highly recommend it. Even if your kid is in 7th grade or 8th grade, they'd probably get a huge kick out of this. The Day the Crayons kit. They will love reading it with you and they will love doing their own piece of writing. Now I want to shift to, I showed you where you can find student models to show your child. Now I want to talk about let's say we want to take our child's awesome work to the publishing stage. What does the publishing stage even mean? Does it mean a clean copy final draft that's printed off, blank and boring and plain? No, it doesn't have to mean that. It does mean that for older kids usually, but it doesn't have to only mean that. Here's an example. Here's a 3rd grade. So this is called Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin in Search of the Holocrons, a Lego adventure by Cole. Cole wrote the story. He sketched out the pictures. Then he actually made these with his Legos. He wrote the story. He sketched pictures. It was amazing. I couldn't even believe it. Okay, this is after a unit about what goes on in a story. We have characters, we have a problem, conflict. You know, I did these little lessons with him. And then he did this all by himself. He even painted backdrops and everything. And then I typed up his words. And then I sent the pictures. I was his photographer. He would set up the scenes. And then I sent the pictures down to the UPS store to print off with their best paper. And then we cut them and glue sticked them into this book. We just bought this book at Target, right? I mean, so easy, cheap, right? Easy. It was like maybe $5 to have the UPS store print off these beautiful pictures that he then got to do. So I want to just point something out. If you're making a book, you can have the pictures that your child makes printed off, or they can draw in there. But these he actually made with his Legos, and he painted these backdrops because he wanted it to look a certain way. But then these were typed and just cut out and glue sticked in. Everything was just glue sticked in. With most of this he did on his own. I helped him do this, but he told me what he wanted it to look like, right? So with guidance and with excitement, if it's something that they are interested in, they will write for you. So I wasn't so much interested in the Lego stuff, but that's all my son cared about at that time. I wanted him writing. And so I didn't care what he wrote about. And so he wrote about, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, because that's what he was into. So, okay, here's another example. Let's see, my next one is, okay, another year, he was very much into Navy SEALs. And I happened to be at the grocery store and I saw a thing about Navy SEALs. And it was like one of those Time magazine things. And I don't know, see, 2000, he was probably 9. And I said, hey, I grabbed this for you because all you talk about are Navy SEALs lately. So I thought you might want to read this. And he read it. And then he came to me and he said, Mom, did you know that there are certain requirements to be a Navy SEAL? And I said, yeah, I did. Do you know what they are? No, but I'll bet you do. Yeah. And he starts telling me all these requirements. And I was like, guess what we're doing next week? He'll be writing a paper on requirements to become a Navy SEAL, which he did, which he wrote. He hand wrote. Okay, so he was little. And then I typed it, right? So child writes it and then I typed it. And do you remember how I talked to you about making it really big? Okay, because when they're little, they need all that space. And then, so I typed exactly as he had it. And then he went through and he added the changes that he wanted, mostly because he was used to how his mom does it. I didn't actually have to do this with him. All I had to do was type it. Crazy. It was crazy. And then what we ended up with was this beautiful paper that he wrote as like a 9-year-old about how to become a Navy SEAL from an adult level book, just because he was into it. So whatever they're into, you can turn into a writing assignment. Okay, next example. Narrative paragraph. Okay, so we do fun things with our kids, right? We take them on hikes, we take them on trips. Use those for writing activities, especially for narrative paragraphs. Turn it into a display. Here we go. Here's the beautiful thing about the pictures. When we're doing narrative writing, a lot of times they don't remember, but you can take the pictures and then you can tell them, okay, I want you to illustrate these 2 things that you are talking about, each one on a little note card. You're going to illustrate, and then you're going to pick 2 pictures to put on your poster. And your writing needs to be talking about all of these things that are happening in the pictures. So that's a beautiful way to display their hard work. Again, if they know that if they know what the end result is going to be, they'll be more engaged in developing it. The next thing I want to show you, this is like the end of a whole unit. So this is something we did when he was in 4th grade. Some people call this a lap book. I don't know, I've never really fully, I never bought a pre-made lap book. I just like to buy these little things at the store and make my kid make things out of them. So we did this totally together. Each one of these little things on this lap book represents 1 day's worth of lesson and creativity. So even at this age, this right here, this is a Venn diagram. I'm going to read this to you. This is my handwriting, but every word of it is my son telling me what to write in there after many books that we read at his age level about this. It's the Thanksgiving story from the Pilgrim's perspective, the Thanksgiving story from the Native American perspective, and the things that the stories have in common. I was going to have him do a piece of writing with this, but he was so done with this unit, so done at this point, that I thought, you know what, this is fantastic. And I'm putting this on here because this is reflective of an amazing amount of reading and talking that he did. Okay, so last thing I'm gonna show you, this is my kid, and then I'll have Katrina show you a piece of her son's writing. This is something that my son did last year. So he's a freshman now, so this is 8th grade. So this, he did, we were learning about government, and he did a research paper, a very in-depth research paper on George Washington. And we actually had a small class together, and my friend was teaching them about government and the presidents, and I was doing the writing. And so all 4 boys ended up doing one of these. They each had a different president. And so this is the culmination of probably 6 weeks of work. It was a lot of work, but they all still have them. They're very proud of them. All this is writing taken to final draft stage and then put into a text box in Word. And all you do is you just stretch the text box so that it fits whatever the format. This is from Michael's. It's a picture frame, a heavy duty picture frame thing that they sell for people to like have at a wedding and have people like, you know, sign and stuff like that. And so it had a nice backing. And then I had the kids each, through the process of this, I had them each pick the picture of their president that they liked, and I sent them down to the UPS store with the exact dimension, you know, size to the exact dimension. So it's like professionally printed off. And then they each picked 1 or 2 other pictures and then did a caption. But so if you think about a typical research paper of somebody in history, you're going to talk about their childhood. You're going to talk about their, you know, their young adult life. You're going to talk about their family. You're going to talk about what they did that made them famous, right? And then how, you know, and then their life until they died, right? You're going to break it into these different categories. And that's what they did here. So each of these paragraphs was reflective of their level of writing, their level of research, so that the 3 older boys all had stuff that was looking just like this. There's one younger boy in our group, and his was reflective of, and I wish I had it with me to show you the difference, still beautifully done. But his was reflective of his level of writing, and so guess what? We just made the font bigger. Hey, no problem. We added a couple more pictures, no problem. He still had a beautiful display. And I also, of course, taught them about works cited because they had to cite their information. And so we did the works cited on the back. But if you were to look at this very, very closely, you would see that every single bit of information has been identified where it came from. And then we decoupaged it. I was my first example with decoupage, but I didn't want these coming off because I knew this is something that I was going to want to keep forever. So I am now all done with all of my talking, and I hope I haven't totally bored you guys. I hope I have inspired you and given you a lot of great ideas. And I just want to show you one more thing before we're totally done with me talking, and that's a picture that Katrina is going to put on the screen. Katrina, I need to do a stop share, right, for you to do that?
I think so.
Okay, let me do that real quick. Oh, there it is. It was hiding from me. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and you guys should be able to see my screen. So this is my son right there in the middle. And Laurie started teaching him writing because I dreaded this subject. And not only did she teach my son to write, she got him super excited about it. So this is just, and I'll let you talk about it, Laurie. So you go for it.
I didn't realize that the one you picked was the college one. That's actually really funny.
Yeah, because I was telling Laurie that my son, he graduated last year and he's not going to college this year. He's working at Moose's Tooth full time. He's adorable. So if you see him, say hi. But yeah, this essay that she had him write was about why college is so important. So it is quite ironic. But anyway, you should talk about whatever it is and point out how amazing you did with this, because I was not involved at all.
The first thing I want to say is that when I first started working with Luke, he did not want to write. He did not like writing, and he was like, I don't know, I don't want to do this. I'm like, he was fine coming to my house. He was very respectful, and he is an absolutely lovely, lovely person. He's been raised very well. He's a joy to talk to, and he's got a very funny, very unique personality that is just a riot to be around. And so I really tried to capture that. I like to, with reluctant writers, I like to tap into what they're interested in. And so I do believe that Luke's very first writing assignment with me, because he was so interested in music and he had so much to say about music, I try to get to know them. You know your children already, right? So for me, I have to do a lot of like almost interviewing, right? Getting to know the kids and connecting with them so that I can listen for something that I can get them to write about. And he's all about music. He is actually a musician. Is he still a musician, I think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so he was young. When did he come to me? 9th grade, 10th grade?
No, middle school. And the paper we're looking at now was a high school example, but I brought him to you in middle school.
Okay. Yeah. So at that level, I remember being absolutely like shocked at the amount that this boy knew about music, right? Because that's what he was into. Similarly, I am totally shocked about the amount that my kid knows about World War II, because he's always been very fascinated about it. So he reads everything he can and he just remembers. Luke loves music. And he was telling me these amazing things, and I thought, we got to capture this. So Luke's first piece of writing was structurally and developmentally very low, right? Not necessarily where we want an 8th grader, 9th grade, what 7th, I don't remember exactly what grade. Can I say assume 8th, do you think?
I don't know. It was probably 7th or 8th. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And it was lower, and that's why Katrina was bringing him to me, because she was worried, right? But because he was excited about it, I was able to get him to take that through so many different revisions. And that's why, because I had him hooked. That's the ticket. You've got to get them hooked with something that they're excited about, because the magic happens during the revision. And it's so every time Luke came to me, I focused heavily on the revision. I also taught him additional skills. Like I probably taught him different types of topic sentences, and I probably taught him, complex sentences and compound sentences, and how to use, and pulling in different like higher level words to say the same thing. I mean, I pull in lots of little mini lessons, but what I'm trying to do is to get them to grow. And each time we sit down together, they're growing it a little bit more and a little bit more. And then they get something that they're incredibly proud of, and they realize, I wrote that. Laurie guided me, but I wrote that. Those are my words. Those are my thoughts. Dang it, that's creative. Do you remember one of the things that he said to you, and we were both super shocked? When he said, Mom, I think I'm going to be a writer. And you called me and you were like, I don't know what you're doing to my kid, but he didn't like to write before, and now he's telling me he's going to be a writer. This is the beauty of the revision. Okay. This is because, you know how I say to you, have that special time when a child comes to me for writing, or I should talk in the past because I'm not doing that anymore, but when I would work with a child one-on-one in writing, that's special time. I'm not snuggling them. I'm not having tea parties with them. Although I pulled tea and snacks out always to get especially my boys, to get them writing for me, but feeding them is good. But just all the positive, just really, really calm, happy voice. If I have to get them to change something, I do it as positively as I possibly can. And then they're willing to continue to work. So this is the end result of a boy who came to me at different periods of his life, right? Maybe 3 times, do you think, Katrina? And then in between, you had him do different writing things. Like you would take, like, you just kind of pulled in different things. You'd say, okay, Laurie taught you this. I want you to do this, right?
Yeah, so I brought my son to Laurie every summer, and we did writing over the summer. And that was, so something that it took me a while to figure out is that writing is taking the thoughts from your head and putting them onto paper. And that is separate from spelling, that is separate from grammar, that is separate from reading. And so we would just do a writing intensive over the summer with Laurie. And then throughout the year, then I would be giving those spelling instructions through whatever curriculum we were using. And I'm glad that you mentioned that again tonight, because I have 6 kids. You probably saw the picture. And I still sometimes forget that writing is about them taking their thoughts and putting it onto paper. Many times I like to make it about a grammar lesson or a spelling lesson. So thank you for that reminder. That's my tangent. But this was over the summer of probably between 9th and 10th or 10th and 11th.
Yeah, I think you're right. And he produced so many beautiful pieces of writing. I remember one that he produced, which was about a trip that he took to Hawaii with his band, his middle school band, not his like special band that they do their own music with, like the school band, the middle school. He went on a trip, and it was a personal narrative. And he was really engaged in that because it was like he flew there with his dad, and he had this special like time with his dad connecting. And he, at first I remember, Luke, I can't believe I'm having these memories. They're just coming back so clear right now, Katrina, because your son made an impact on me too, because he's such a great kid, I love getting to know all these kids. But
I know that he was a very reluctant writer. He hated writing. He had nothing. He couldn't say anything. When I had him sit down to write, he was like, I don't have anything to say. And so Laurie took him from that to this, doing exactly what she shared tonight, which is why I wanted her to share this, because now I can't take any of my other kids to her because she's a sponsor teacher at Family Partnership now. And so now it's my job. I'm the one who's going to be doing this, just like you guys are going to be doing this. So I'm super happy to learn all of this. But I think, this paper was just an example of the praise that you gave him, along with.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to show is just the praise. And so this is like probably one of the last times I saw him. I don't know, usually there's going to be positive things woven all over the place he probably took every piece of writing through multiple drafts. I would imagine I probably made him do, because with kids, when they're older especially, and you get them writing, it's not about producing a new piece of writing every week. It's about showing them how to grow, teaching them a mini lesson. Now pull this into your writing that you've already done. Here's a new mini lesson. Now pull this into your writing. That's where, like I said, you grow, 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 grow. So I love how this book titles that one section mini lessons, because that's essentially what you're doing. They're only going to take it in little chunks anyways, right? Ever. So that's all you get. But if they're feeling happy, if they've got an awesome snack or something awesome to drink, and they're getting their papers, getting all sorts of awesome comments, they're going to keep going with you. They're going to soak it in. Okay, and here's the last thing I want to tell you, that the best part about this is that you will see the areas that you've covered. You'll see them, pull them in. They try them on their own in the next piece of writing. And then in the next piece of writing, you'll see it again. So it's taking this new content and then the application of it. That's when we know we have true learning, is when they take something and they apply it on their own. And then you're like, wow, that is so cool, right? Okay, so at this point, I've said everything I should probably say, and I would just really like to open this up to questions that you have, if you're not ready to fall asleep on me.
So I see in the chat, Geneva said, I'm doing a 2nd grade writer's workshop with 2 girls, and they both will take off writing long stories, which end up not making a ton of sense by the end. I don't want to discourage their free writing, but when I suggest, my light just went off in my office. But when I suggest revisions or mention things that don't make sense, they are reluctant to change their stories. So what would you suggest?
Okay, yes, I have come across this so many times. So what I would suggest is that do not do anything with those stories, but that you start to do different types of writing with them. Girls especially love to go off on tangents in their stories, and they love to use lots and lots of exclamation marks, and they get really offended. I've had this happen with many students. They get very offended when you say, okay, exclamation marks are special. We want to use them at special times, like when someone's speaking and they're exclaiming something, you know? So it's really hard to get them to shift. So what I would do in that case, I actually would just stop doing, it looks like you're doing stories. So I would just shift, do a different type of writing. I would pull in expository writing, have them do research, have them pick two things that are similar but different that they know a lot about, and have them do comparison contrast writing. So for example, the compare and contrast, the difference between having a cat versus having a dog as a pet. Compare and contrast the difference between playing with Legos and what is the online Roblox, building with Roblox or Minecraft on, you know, building with in your hands and building on the screen. Compare and contrast pizza and tacos. You know what I mean? You can compare and contrast so many different things. It's best to let your child pick. I haven't looked, but I'm willing to bet there's some phenomenal compare and contrast resources on that web page. I would seek those out. I have done this. This is exactly what I've done, and I've probably come across this 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years, where I have kids who just go on and on. I just stop. I maybe don't even touch story writing again that year. I maybe wait until I've got them willing to connect with me and listen, because here's the reason that that's happening is that story writing needs to be very carefully done. The brainstorming and the pre-writing stages need to be put in place first. So you want to have an actual unit that has all of these pieces in place before they even start drafting. So they're going to have they're going to have their plot line figured out. They're going to know what the conflicts are. They're going to have already developed their characters. You're going to have talked to them about dialogue. There's going to be a lot of different pieces of that. And then they're not going to have the option of going on and on, because they're going to have to fit to this like very limited thing that you already set in place. So in order to just avoid that, just stop it, jump right into expository writing. They're very different, and kids love to compare and contrast things. Does that help? Does that answer that, Geneva?
I'm going to say it totally answers it.
Okay.
And I'm going to also say that I do this a lot in science. And so my kids don't even know that it's writing. Like last summer, we got a ladybug kit, and then we got like a butterfly kit. And I just had them compare and contrast how they were different. And my kids were so into it because they were looking at the little ladybug land and the the butterflies, and it was just so easy to compare and contrast. They didn't even think they were writing. And then we do that in social studies also. So we were studying different Native American tribes, and I just had them pick 2 and figure out how they were different and similar. And they were having so much fun doing it. I don't even think they knew we were brainstorming for a writing project. So yeah. And I'm going to read something Jessica said too, which is amazing. Because I have the same struggle. So she says, I struggle with feeling like I'm doing 25% of the writing because I give him an idea and he just copies it. So how do you get kids to come up with their own ideas to elaborate? And she's talking about a 6th grader, but I think we all struggle with that. So she says they're using Bookshark and it lacks good models. So she's gone online to get some, and she'll start using some of those great ones you've given us. But that elaborating lesson was great, but give us more ideas.
Okay, so first I want to jump into the Bookshark. So I use the Sunlight side. So it's like, they're the same, basically the exact same curriculum, same books and everything. I didn't use the 6th grade level, but I believe we used 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade level, I think, or maybe, yeah, I think for 3 years we used Sunlight. I also was very frustrated with the lack of examples and activities to do with these books. I mean, the books are phenomenal, right? Like wonderful. I mean, some of the titles, I was just like mind blown that my child was learning about these, and that books that I would never have known existed. And I was so grateful that we got these boxes at the beginning of the school year, and it was just like Christmas opening them. But my teacher heart, my writing teacher heart, was so disappointed. And I feel like they need to hire somebody to come up with some pretty awesome things to go along with their novels. Novel studies, when I say things, I mean novel studies that are not just questions, because literally what they just have questions, which basically tell you, did your child read the book or read that chapter? That's all that does for you. Those are fine in and of themselves, but I would imagine that most parents want their child to be doing something more in addition. Where are these fun projects? Where are these writing activities? These are things you're going to, unfortunately, if you're using Bookshark or Sunlight, you're going to have to incorporate on your own. So you're going to have to look at like this website that I showed you. There's so many great ideas in there. So you can have your child do something along the lines of character analysis, or, picking out the plot line, talking about conflicts and writing about that, comparing and contrasting characters. There's so many different things you can do with novel studies. Actually, let me see if I grabbed one of Cole's. Yeah, oh my gosh, here we go. Here's a prime example. Can I read this to you guys really quick? This is from when we did Sunlight, 2015. So he was 9. Here's what happened. He read, after he finished Sign of the Beaver, he said, "Mom, did you realize that Sign of the Beaver and The Courage of Sarah Noble are very similar to each other?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, tell me about it." Let me make you a Venn diagram as we're talking, which I did, okay? So here's what he wrote. Of course, this was from me creating the brainstorming and the pre-writing, and we did the drafting. So this is the final result of a 9-year-old, okay? The books, The Courage of Sarah Noble and Sign of the Beaver, are similar in many ways. In Sign of the Beaver, the main character is 13-year-old Matt, and in The Courage of Sarah Noble, the main character is Sarah, who is only 8. They both travel far away in the wilderness with their fathers to build houses before the winter. One similarity between the stories is that the main characters had help from the Indians. Matt almost drowned in a lake, but Indians found Matt and saved his life. Sarah and her father found the Indians when they were walking through the forest, and they volunteered to help her when her dad left to get her family. Both characters develop relationships with the Indians. Matt and Etienne, who are the same age, get very close and become like brothers. Sarah is treated like one of their children and is loved like part of their family. They both reconnect with their families and a new baby sister at the end. Now, I'm going to tell you, obviously, this child at age 9 did not sit down and write this as a rough draft, right? No. This went through many different, probably 2 weeks of working on it a little bit every day. Like I said, going through the writing process, but it started with him saying, "Did you realize that they have a lot in common?" Literally, I was like, "Tell me about it." And I wasn't having him write it down because I didn't want him to shut down, because I knew that I had him hooked. And so I wrote down what he was telling me. And then I didn't say a word about it. And then the next day I said, "You know, what you were telling me was so interesting, Cole. Do you think we can turn this into a piece of writing? And we can just stop reading right now, and our language arts time and social studies time can just be focused on developing before we move on to the next book? Because this is so cool, like the comparisons that you made." And he was like super engaged. I couldn't believe that this is what he was able to come up with. Again, it's about engagement. And I'm not sure I answered your question. So you wanted to know, okay, so your biggest frustration is that you are doing 25% of the writing because you give him an idea and he copies it. So here's where you're going to fix that problem. That's going to be fixed with the brainstorming. So you want to get the brainstorming is a big deal, because that's where your child's ideas are being pulled out of their head. So if we can get that brainstorming going, then you can just give him sentence starters if you need to. Just give him the first 2 words. One day, or you know what I mean? You just give him a little bit, and you can say, "No, I want you to finish this, but I'm not going to let you finish it with a quick ending." You can teach him a lesson about compound sentences and say, "I'm going to give you the first sentence and you're going to give me the next sentence." Right? You can teach him a lesson about complex sentences, especially because 6th grade, you bet, yeah, Teach them a lesson about complex sentences and say, okay, and that when you teach that, you're teaching dependent clause and independent clause. And don't get scared by that because it's not scary. Watch a Google video. I'll be doing one of my videos on this too to show you how easy it is to teach this to kids. But if you do that and then you say, okay, I'm going to give you the dependent clause, you're going to finish it with the independent clause. So if you give them very specific areas that they're developing, and it might feel like, okay, so we just like, it was pulling teeth to get 3 sentences out of my kid today. That's okay. You got 3 sentences. Tomorrow it will be better. It will, because every bit of energy that you, you're filling your child's like love tank, right? So they're resisting because they don't want to write. You're responding with love and with guidance, gentle guidance, and they're going to be willing. Every time you try to sit down, they're going to be more and more willing to push themselves a little bit more. I promise. And Jessica, I want, we should probably, well, okay, so my phone number is on our website, right? So just go to the Family Partnership website, shoot me a text or call me anytime. If you want any more specific one-on-one suggestions, anybody who's online right now or who is watching this video at a later date, this is my passion, you guys. Yes, I'm so happy to be working for the school district again, and certainly in the capacity of a sponsor teacher, because I don't think there could be a better job for me. Like, it's like this job was created for me. And Chris and Katrina too. Like, it's the best job in the world. But let me tell you, it's a job, right? And I love it, but I love helping people feel comfortable teaching their children writing. And so that makes me happy. And you will not be bothering me if you call me and say, hey, I am struggling. I just had a fight with my kid. I'm trying the thing that you said and it's not working. And we can talk about it. And I can come up with a different idea. And I can help you with a game plan. Yeah, so my phone number and my email are on our website. So you can reach out. You do not have to be my sponsor family to reach out.
Well, I want to answer her question a little bit too, because I took a class over the summer on how to teach kids writing because I was feeling so frustrated. And I think that you said this, but I just want to emphasize, you have to go with what they love. You have to start with what they love. When you hand them a topic, when I hand my kids a topic, they can maybe write 1 sentence and they're like, I can't think of anything. But when I start with what they love, so my daughter loves science and she was getting really excited about plants over the summer. And I just got out one of those webs, you know, with the circle in the middle that has like little lines coming out with other circles. And I said, okay, let's write plants in the center and let's just write some of your favorite plants. And again, she's odd. She loves science, but I was just jumping off of that. And she didn't have enough circles to fill. She kept on going. And so finally I was like, well, let's pick one of these plants and I want you to tell me about it. And again, just got the little circle in the middle. We wrote her favorite plant and she just started telling me things. And I realized over the summer, for the first time ever, I'd been skipping that brainstorming step, which Laurie just talked about. And I'd also been providing that information for my child instead of letting her kind of guide. And once she provided the information and I just provided that tool of the web for her to brainstorm, it was really easy for her to have ideas. In fact, she had too many ideas. So I just want to reiterate how important that is to follow their loves, whatever they're into, whether it be Legos or music or whatever. And then also to use that brainstorming web before you go anywhere with writing.
Yep, the brainstorming web. Sorry, Katrina, are you done?
Yeah, and so Geneva's asking, how do you teach brainstorming? I've gone over it, but the kids don't feel engaged. So resources and ideas. So go, Laurie.
Okay, so I showed you guys on that website in the mini, was it the mini lessons section? I feel like it was. Now I don't remember what they were called, but I'm pretty sure it was the mini lesson section. And if you scroll down and I only showed you like the top, like probably 30% of what they have on that page. There's going to be, they have it alphabetized. So there's going to be multiple ideas for brainstorming in there. Here's what I would do with kids who are not engaged. Number one, you have to make this a special time. So if that means, you have to change the scene. If you're typically doing school at the dining table, shift it to the couch. Snuggle up in their bed with them. go on a drive, get coffee or some treats or whatever, and sit in the car and work together. But change the scenery, because changing the scenery is going to break a little bit of that resistance right off the bat, and you're making it fun, right? So if you're making it fun, you've got them hooked a little bit there. So first of all, I would do that because right now you have to break a pattern, right? So that's why I'm recommending this. You shouldn't have to do this every time you want to do writing, but you're breaking a pattern of your kids being like negative and not wanting to engage with you, which I would imagine has to be, well, it has to be incredibly frustrating and demoralizing, especially when you're excited to do a writing assignment and your kid won't even do brainstorming with you. That's tough. And I have been there. Okay. So yes, my son does a lot of writing, but he also does a lot of arguing, and he also does a lot of refusing. So trust me, things are not perfect over at the Matthews house by any set of anybody's idea of what perfect is. Some days we're just barely functioning as well. And you know what, that's life. Some days are amazing and some days they're not. And so I choose to focus on the average and the amazing, and to not worry about the days that are rough. So I try again. Sometimes I just stop. I just say, okay, whatever. We got through half of the subjects today. We didn't do the writing. We didn't do the science, or whatever we didn't do. That's okay, because we'll do something special on the weekend, or we'll catch up at a later date. Maybe I'll try to sneak an extra lesson in or whatever. Some things you can let go of. Some things you can't let go of. Math, for example, right? You can't let go of math. You can't let go of the brainstorming. Like you have, each lesson leads to the next one, to the next one. So if you don't do a math lesson, you still have to do it, right? Just a different day, but that's okay. And so I have to a lot of times give myself grace to just let it go, because right now he's not engaging for me. And stay positive, and pull in tea parties, and take him out to Starbucks and get him a mango drink, or leave the house so that I can take a deep breath and call my husband and cry, because sometimes I have to do that. Wow, I am getting real here. Why are we homeschooling again? You know, these conversations happen in our house too. And I leave for a little bit because he's old enough for me to do that, you know, and then I come back, but I'll grab him a treat on the way back and then just stick it right next to him. And then he'll be like, thanks, Mom. Usually I get an apology, and then we're back. So even if I was the one who was right and he was the one who was wrong, it's just that shift sometimes. And boys are tough. They want to argue with Mom. Doesn't get easier, I'm sorry to say. It gets worse. Okay. So as far as the brainstorming, here's what I would do. I would pick something that was a fun family thing. Maybe you guys did a fun fishing trip recently. Maybe you went on a hike together. Maybe you made dinner together. Think of something that was fun, an art project, anything that your child enjoyed, okay? Anything where your child was laughing and smiling. And I would say, hey, you know what, we're gonna do a joint paragraph together today. And I'm gonna show you, we're starting something new. I watched this training video and we're gonna put this into play, and I'm excited. And this is an experience that we had together. So we're gonna start and we're gonna do the web brainstorm method. And so remember let's just say we did I'll use my family's example. We went to the Matanuska Glacier for the first time. Okay, we did not know where we were going. We've lived here for over 20 years and we had never been there. Okay, so shame on us. But we took our kids to the Matanuska Glacier this summer. And what I would write first, I would say, do you remember, like in the middle circle, I would write Matanuska Glacier. And I might say, what do you remember about getting ready to go? And he might say, I didn't want to go. And I argued about it. And I was really a jerk the whole way there. And I'm like, yeah, you were really rude about it. Yeah. And I'll say, and you know what I remember? I remember that we kept thinking that we missed the turn. And we're like, where is this turn for this glacier? We've been driving for hours. What's going on here? And then we took the wrong turn and we were super confused because we didn't actually my husband was driving, so we didn't Google map it because we were going to find it. So we were all frustrated with each other. And so I might say, you know, we should totally write about that. And he'd say, okay, yeah, let's do it. We don't have to always write about the positive things. So I might draw a line out and I'd say, we were all mad at each other. Okay, why were we all mad at each other? 1, Cole didn't want to go in the first place and refused to put boots on. He had tennis shoes. 2, Let's see, what was another one? We couldn't find it and everybody got mad. 3, everybody was hungry and thirsty. There was nowhere to buy food. Okay. Then we get there and we're like, what are you talking about? We like, you know, if you guys have been there, you know, you got to go into this little shack thing and pay for the privilege of driving over there, which we were fine doing. But then we were like, on the way to the shack, we were like, we think we took the wrong turn because we're driving on like really old boards. And we were trying to figure out if other cars had been there recently, like looking at the ruts, because we weren't sure where we were going. And we were a little bit scared. We were positive we did not make the right turn again. And so we might write about that. And I'd write, we were all scared going over the rickety bridge, like literally wanted to turn around. And then he'd probably start laughing, because it was at that point that he started laughing because his dad and I were so mad at each other. And then, and he thought that was funny. And then, let's see what else. Probably we would talk about how long we had to talk and all the mud we had to get through, and how like Dave and I were like, you should have worn boots, Cole. Why didn't you wear boots? And now we all need like ice grips because now we're all worried we're going to slip and fall. We'd probably talk about how cute Parker was, because dang it, was that girl cute on that day. Like I'm so glad we did it. The best, Parker's my granddaughter, by the way, the best memory. Might talk about how Madeline, in line with her brother, Madeline's our adult daughter, Parker's mama, wore Birkenstocks to Matanuska Glacier. So I had my 14-year-old son wearing tennis shoes, not appropriate. And I had my 24-year-old daughter with her baby on her back in Birkenstocks. But we had just driven, I don't even know how long to get there. And we were there, and dang it, we were going to go to the glacier. Okay, so do you see where I'm saying? And so as we're remembering the situation, I might even pull up some of the pictures and say, oh man, it was gorgeous though. Remember that trail where all that mud was? Remember how you ran ahead to tell me not to go down that way? So what I'm modeling for you is the conversation I would have with my child to get him engaged in the memory of it, okay? Because in that process, I'm writing. And I'll say, hey, should we do that? Yeah, we should write about that. Okay, and then I'm not writing full sentences in that web. I'm just writing in a few words, like a phrase, to help us remember, right? I might write Madeline shoes, a web shoes, and I might write Madeline Burke's cold tennis shoes, right? Parker boots that kept falling off, all right? Everyone needed ice grips. So that might be its own little bubble with all the different, the shoe issues. The shoe things were a huge problem for our family that day. Huge. The park ranger who had ice things on her boots had to get us to the ice so we could take pictures, because there was no way we were going to get to where we wanted to take pictures. And she was so sweet. And we were so embarrassed that we had to have this woman to get us one at a time up, because we were so unprepared. But it was hilarious, and we were all laughing. And after we took our pictures, we looked down, and dang it, there was a guy in shorts and rubber flip-flops. So then we're laughing again and trying not to laugh at him, but it was like, it ended up being the best day, right? And then everybody was starving, so then we went to a restaurant. It was just fun. So I might even like say, you know, it would be really cool to have as like a conclusion sentence to this paragraph whenever we write it. It might be that how the day started so awful and we were all mad at each other, but we were going, it was happening. And it ended on such a positive note, right? But as a family, we had this shared experience. And I might write that at the bottom, like idea for a conclusion, because, you know, I had the idea and I just write idea. Then I would say, okay, you know what? I want you to go take this and I just want you to do a free write with it. I want you to just turn this into a paragraph, however you just want to do it. I probably wouldn't even worry about an outline at that point. And just get these ideas from the bubble onto paper. I wouldn't do it that day though, I don't think. I think I would wait. Or maybe what I would do, it would depend. It would depend on the amount of time we had and how tired either of us was after this. I might wait till the next day, but I think I could either send and say, here's the brainstorm, now I want you to go write a different day. Or if it was the same day, I might do the writing or the typing, and he might be looking at the bubble and be telling me these in sentence form. Do you see what I'm saying? Because then I've got him engaged, turning phrases and words into sentences, and I'm typing.
And can you tell us how that would look different for like the little ones, like kindergarten, first, second grade?
Exactly the same.
Okay.
because I'm the one doing the writing or the typing, they're talking. Yep, exactly the same no matter what the age, actually, if they're fighting you on it. Well, little ones aren't going to be fighting you, but that's a really good method to do with little ones anyways, just to get them, you know, feeling like they're part of a writing project, because they have a lot of ownership there, because they're the ones coming up with ideas. So there's an interesting disconnect for a lot of people between the ideas that we have and getting them out into written form, whether it's handwriting or typing it. You know, I don't even really want to call it writer's block, because I don't think it's really writer's block. And I don't think it's a disability. I think it's anxiety, really. So anxiety kills our creativity. And I think that's one of the reasons why, if we start with laughter, if we start with a special environment and our child is feeling, you know, the warmth and the happiness, the anxiety is gone. And they're going to be more willing to put those thoughts into words, whether they're the one writing it or whether they're the one speaking it. But if your child really struggles with that, I would probably just say to yourself, you know what, for the next month, I'm going to do all the writing and they're going to do all the talking. And just don't even expect them. I'm not talking about your other subjects. I mean, for writing activities, you know, specifically writing activities, intentional writing activities. Okay, but they're still expected to do all their other stuff. But that's maybe what I would do. Just to get them in that mode, to show them, hey, you have got awesome ideas. Wow, the words you use are amazing. And then you can pull in some of those little mini lessons that I showed you on that website and start to develop. And every single thing you do, every 10 to 15 minute lesson, mini lesson, or chunk of time you spend with your child is going to grow them as a writer. And if we think about like a tool belt with writing, they're just tools in your child's tool belt that they will hold on to, and you will be amazed at how well they're able to hold on to, retain them, and then use them again independently. And so that's my goal with these videos that I'm going to be producing and having for you guys, is to give you tools in your toolbox as a parent trying to teach your children writing. So that's kind of like, that's my perspective on that, is I just have a heart for that. And that's why I'm going to do it. Have I done one yet? No, but I have done several rough draft videos and made myself tons of notes of what I don't like. So I'm almost there. I'm hoping that next week I'll have one ready for Katrina to put out.
Well, this was super helpful. Even you just sharing your experience as a mom, because we are all doing the same things, struggling. So Jessica says, super helpful for you to say this, because yeah, these are helpful techniques for all of us. So thank you for sharing your brain with us and your experience and all of these ideas. And we cannot wait for the other writing videos. I mean, I'm speaking for everybody, but right, we can't wait. So hurry, we need them. And thank you.
You guys are very welcome. Thank you for participating in this.